Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 175 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast and all over the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest on today's episode. For the first time, we got Ivy herself. Sara Waldman is on the show today. How's it going, Ivy?
Hi, everyone. It's going great. I'm glad to be here.
Of course, yeah. I feel like this is a long time in the making. Very glad to have you on. We have you on today, Ivy, because we're talking all rumor mill shit today. We've got potential September Direct coming up, maybe earliest next week, maybe the week after. There's lots of rumors swirling around right now. We're going to take this opportunity to talk about what we'd like to see in a September Direct, and also just kind of about the state of the Direct in general. With the last couple weird years that Nintendo has had, do they even need to do Directs anymore? We're going to be breaking all that down on today's episode. We also got tons of news or rumors, like a lot, because we were off for the past week. Sakurai is a YouTuber now. We're going to be talking about that. Gamescom happened. It was a bit of a snooze fest. There's lots of stuff leaking out of Retro Studios, potentially. We're going to be talking about some canceled projects. And the Mario movie officially has a title, and it might surprise you. Before we get into the news, there's lots more as well. But before we get into all the news and rumors, how's everybody doing? How'd we enjoy that week off?
I was out in the Cream City, aka Milwaukee. Did y'all know that Milwaukee is called the Cream City?
No.
Oh yeah.
Didn't know that.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Did you?
I mean, my dad is from, Wisconsin, so he's from the area.
Okay.
Yeah, Racine. But yes.
Yeah. Oh, I was in Racine. I went.
Oh, really?
Went to the QP Hamburger in Racine.
Did you say hi to all my dad's high school friends?
I did. I said hello, David Howe's father friends. Yeah.
Did you use a bubbler while you were there?
Is that a drinking fountain?
They call water fountains bubblers.
Yeah, fuck you.
That's true. I didn't make it up. Ask my dad.
Yeah. And sure, I had a great time in Milwaukee. Went up to the UP in Marquette, Michigan. Just had a great time. I went on a Joe Pera pilgrimage and went to a bunch of filming locations. And I had one of the most wholesome trips. I just heard a lot of stories from people when we went to some of these locations. It was a great trip.
Like stories they had while shooting?
Yeah, like local business owners or like people who are extras were like, hey, can we come into your hair salon to take a couple photos? And they're like, oh yes, come on in. Let me tell you these stories about what production was like.
Oh, that's great.
It was very cool. How about y'all? David, how are you?
I'm doing okay. We've had a couple technical snafus before the recording, namely me spilling not one, but two drinks all over my desk. I spilled one drink and then I was like, hey, man, that was really annoying to clean up. I'm going to go get a shot of whiskey. And then I spilled the shot of whiskey on my desk. So I might be a little bit not my best. But, fuck, I was just slamming games this past weekend, putting off work I needed to do. It's fucking Monday, gang. It's a coffee episode. We're recording early on this Labor Day. So it's good to have all of you here. Patrick, how was your week, man?
Yeah, it's been great. I don't I didn't travel or spill any drinks, I don't think. Knock on wood.
Are you even living?
I don't have a lot to report, but things are okay. I've actually had really a crazy 2 weeks, but things are better now. And so, yeah.
Very good.
I won't get into it.
The people want to know. Ivy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've had a very low-key week filled with a lot of gaming. So, I mean, you can't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah. That's great. I will say, we'll get into it, I'm sure, but I will say playing that Splatoon demo, that was a blast, Ivy. It was like you, me, AVK, and Saturday, like in a squad for about 6 hours throughout the day on voice chat the entire time. That was a blast. I had so much fun. Can't wait for this weekend.
Yeah, I'm so ready to do it all again.
Yeah.
We got a few shout outs. Our last episode was a Q&A episode, and DCD asked us what's the equivalent of taking 1 HP of damage, and we discussed it over on the Discord. A lot of people had answers, but I think the best answer comes from KSBOKC, who said static shock from a doorknob. And everybody agreed that that's a good answer to that.
I think that's the correct. It doesn't hurt, but you're like, ooh.
Certainly way too up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over on YouTube, Record2 said Twisted Metal with an online battle mode would be amazing. Sony, you're sitting on money. I agree. Every time something comes up about what would be a good battle royale game or what's the deal with Twisted Metal, I pitched this idea of online Twisted Metal. And I think battle royale would really fit with like a small. I mean, there's a lot of modes I think that they could do online with Twisted Metal. Like
I
Rocket
agree.
League is such a big game. Like, why couldn't we have a Rocket League clone in Twisted Metal where you're blowing each other up? I don't know.
I have a feeling that a new Twisted Metal is coming sooner rather than later. I mean, we've got that show coming out. I actually I did a comedy show here in Austin during RTX, I think, and one of the writers of somebody from the writer's room on that Twisted Metal show. I did the show with him, and he was just talking about it, and it sounds like they're really going all in on this show. And so I imagine that there'll be some sort of game tie-in coming out around that time.
And also during that Q&A episode, TikToks, I think, came up, right? Like as a joke. And then our friend Donnie went off and made a bunch of TikToks for our show. So we don't know how to use TikTok, I think, right?
Yeah.
Nobody here actually uses it.
I know kind of how to do it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to.
You don't. None of us know how to work a TikTok.
Yeah.
We don't know what
do you
they
touch?
We are physically incapable. So thank you, Donnie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Donnie's TikTok is now officially called Super Switch Headz and is now the official Switch Headz TikTok. So I'm all for it. Thanks, Donnie. Follow Super Switch Headz on TikTok. We got a new social to add to the end of the show.
Yeah. So if you want to, share your thoughts on today's episode, maybe we'll shout you out next time. We also appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star review for our podcast or mention it to a friend. And also remember to like and subscribe on YouTube.
That's right. Real quick, before we move on to the news, one last little plug. We are doing our second JRPG Club meetup this upcoming weekend. Is that correct? I think on the 11th. Is that correct?
That's right. September 11th.
Yes, that's right.
September 11th, a day we'll never forget because it's the day we all did the JRPG Club meetup. And we'll be discussing spoiler talk for Earthbound. I probably won't be there because I haven't played past where I played when we met up the first time.
Mhm.
But if you're interested in talking spoilers for Earthbound, end game stuff, please join our Discord. We'll be doing a in-person or video meetup for that.
Nice. All right. So we're moving on to news and rumors for the week. First up, Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Kirby and Super Smash Bros., is starting a YouTube channel or has started a YouTube channel, and it's geared towards game design and game development, but it's a very I don't want to say the word basic, but sort of maybe more like it's not technical, so it's accessible for casual fans as well as people interested in making games. This happened, and he put up like 2 or 3 videos, sort of an intro video and sort of video about what he's worked on. And then the first real quote unquote game design video was one about stopping for big moments, sort of pausing when like characters die or a big punch happens in Smash. And he's put out
Like
a few
impact
videos
frames
since.
or yeah.
And it's actually really interesting. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to watch this, but it's well done. He got permission from Nintendo to use a lot of footage and presumably other developers possibly too, because there's other games featured, but
design documents and stuff like that. He's able to show off some of it's great. Yeah. I'm super happy. He's putting out like 2 or 3 videos a week too. He's hustling, man. It's like he took all those comments about how he should just be a YouTuber to heart when he was doing those Smash videos. Right. Yeah.
He's got a lot to say. Also, I like it. At first I didn't like this, but even though he has an English channel and a Japanese channel, the English channel is still him talking in Japanese and then subtitled. But it's like, I was like, oh, I'll watch this while I do something else. And then I realized I couldn't. But honestly, that's kind of nice because then like I'm focused on it and I actually absorb it. So,
Yeah.
I had the exact same reaction, Patrick. And it made me want to learn Japanese even more than I already did.
Yeah.
And it also made me feel like I knew him. And like, his whole persona and like everything that he believes in and stands for just comes through so strongly.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's the best, man. And it's, he basically had been doing those one a day Smash screenshots where he would kind of, use a dev camera to get like really cool, interesting screenshots. And he finished that up and then immediately started this YouTube channel afterwards. And so it's just really nice. I mean, clearly he gets the love that everyone has for him, and he understands how important his position is, like in the world of game development and stuff like that. So it's just really great that he so consistently shares his gifts with the rest of the world.
Moving on, we got a lot of Splatoon 3 news. Well, it's coming out this week, this Friday, so that's part of the big news. But on August 27th, the sort of like test Splatfest, I don't think they actually called it a test, but I assume it might have been happened. And we kind of mentioned that at the top of the show. Yeah, we all played a lot, presumably. I didn't actually play with you, David, but I did play with you, Ivy, and some other folks. Yeah, that was a ton of fun. I am excited for this game.
I haven't played it at all, so I'm
I
excited to hear what everyone thought, or everyone felt.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was great. Like, it's just been a while since, I don't know, played with other people a lot. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The energy was there. Community was there.
It was my first time ever playing Splatoon with anyone. I've up until that, Splatfest, I had only played it on my own, and I loved it on my own, but I really loved it with people. And I'm so excited for this game to come out.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. I mean, I think that the Splatfests were always kind of like this, where you could squad up with people during Splatfest, but we know that's going to be happening during regular Turf War as well. And I think the way that they're doing it is there's like an option to just play Turf War, and then an option to play Turf War with friends. And I feel like those are almost like different pools, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like whenever you are squatted up with other people and you're all chatting together and strategizing, you're generally playing against another team that is also squatted up, or at least it's at least 3 of them, and then maybe like 1 extra or something like that, right? And so I think so it was fun in that way, because you could tell, because we were like, okay, we need to all like head to the right, like we need coverage or blah, blah, blah. We're doing all this kind of strategizing, but you could see that they were like responding in full, like to what we were doing. And so it made it like so dynamic and fun to do. Unfortunately, Team Scissors lost spectacularly.
Well, yeah.
Which I feel like that might have been part of the test too, because I mean, this is the first time they've ever done the tricolor battles. And I mean, maybe some of it has to do with whatever algorithm they had set in terms of like difficulty or how the points would be accumulated. But also maybe part of it had to do with like the fact that it's a totally new game mode for everyone, especially the people defending, what was it called? The Signal or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Signal. Yeah.
And like, because remember, it took, David, it took us like several tries to even like come up with a game plan. And like once we did, we were at least moderately successful. But like I think that factored in a lot too.
Or to even just understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Because it was like, because I didn't realize that the Signal, if the other team catches it, then they get like a permanent rain cloud on their side. Right. So, and then if they capture it again, they get another rain cloud. Right. So it's just about keeping them from getting auto paint done on their side. Right. And so like, once we figured that, it was like, okay, well, we need to have like 2 people in the middle guarding, or maybe even just 1, probably 2. So he has backup, and then people kind of like covering the sides as they're coming in. And so it's stuff like that is super fun. And then on top of that, it's just the gameplay has been really tightened and feels really smooth. The graphics are great, so it's just going to be an excellent experience. Like I can't wait for Friday.
Yeah. There's more to say, but we got a lot to cover. So
Were you all chatting on the Switch app, Nintendo Switch Online app, or Discord?
No, we were on Discord.
Okay, cool, nice.
But yeah,
but it does look like it will be available. Like I didn't see, because I use the Switch app a fair amount, and I didn't see the Splatfest as an available, option for software option that day.
Right.
But like in navigating through Splatoon 3, just like it shows that like it does have voice chat capability.
Yeah. And it's going to have a whole section of it dedicated on the app for like stats and stuff like that too. So I mean, that might be something we start doing, but it's for now. It's just like we're all talking on the Discord anyway, so it's just a little bit easier to do it that way.
Sounds like Nintendo took cheating pretty seriously because people who were trying to cheat found themselves banned from the game, from at least this test. We don't know if that means they'll be banned from the, NSO or what have you. But Oatmeal Dome, the data miner we sometimes talk about, said that it looked like they were issuing console bans, so it's the whole console, and they're not really sure what that means, if it's a total ban from NSO or what. But yeah, that's
if you want to cheat. Good. If you want to cheat and play Splatoon, just go play Splatoon 1 on the Wii U. that's where the cheaters thrive. Yeah.
I think also we should maybe mention that the game is leaked early, right? So like the story mode, that is to say, is out there. I guess there's some people got their hands on some physical copies and or other data mining or what have you. I don't really know all the details, but beware,
the game is dumped. It's online. You can't play online right now, but people with hack switches can just play it right now. So
yeah,
be on the lookout for like story spoilers. I've already actually seen one of like the final boss from the single player, which I don't really care about. That's not really why I play Splatoon, but if that's something that interests you, definitely like try to steer clear of YouTube.
And there was a Nintendo Treehouse that happened randomly in the interim between us recording this episode and the last one, which was weird because usually those happen after directs and at E3 and that sort of thing, but it happened focused on Splatoon 3. Which I think showed off some of the story mode, right? But not like a full leak of it. But
they didn't show the final boss.
No, it was just a couple levels.
And they also showed off the game Harvestella at this as well. So it's kind of an interesting, I guess, what might have been if they had, I don't know, like if there'd been any E3 or something that happened. I did not really watch this. Did y'all pay attention to the Harvestella part at all? Anybody?
I looked at it a little bit, mostly just in preparation for the podcast. And the vibe that I got was that it was almost like they were trying to take the good parts of Breath of the Wild and some of the like planting and aspects of Animal Crossing and like mash it together in its own JRPG.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It really just looks like Square's response to like Rune Factory. So if those are your kinds of games and you like farming stuff, this is great. I'm kind of just like, I don't give a single shit about this game. I don't like farming stuff. They were like, look how cute it is to water squares. And I'm like, I don't, that's not something that's appealing to me. Yeah.
That's what made me think of Animal Crossing and like, the crossbreeding and like creating new flowers and whatnot. And like, I was like, I could just play Animal Crossing.
Yeah. But I mean, I think this is definitely going to have an audience. It looks pretty polished. Just not for me.
Since we last recorded, Gamescom, the big gaming event in Germany, happened. A lot of big announcements, especially at the opening night. I don't know, was there any that y'all want to particularly hit? I know sort of note to the podcast, perhaps Sonic Frontiers got a release date coming November 8th.
One day before God of War, Sonic Frontiers. Pretty ballsy. Yeah.
Are you excited about the Dune game, David? No.
I mean, I'm probably not going to play it, but I think it's cool that they're doing a Dune MMO.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's an MMO. That doesn't. Yeah. That kind of makes it harder.
It's like a survival open world MMO. Is what they said. But I mean, that seems like a cool setting for that kind of game. But The Expanse Telltale game was shown. Big fan of that. But all in all, I mean, it was.
I know
it just kind of felt like Summer Games Fest again.
Some people are excited about Dead Island too, because that's sort of been a long anticipated thing, right?
Did you guys play the first Dead Island?
No.
Dead Island 1, I played on my PC back in the day. I played it the whole game through with 3 other people. We did 4-player co-op the whole way. It was an absolute fucking blast. But that game is also busted as hell. Like that game was so glitchy and kind of borderline bad, but was super fun in like a chaotic kind of way. and had a really interesting melee mechanic, the way that the controls work. So I hope at least that fun and that melee mechanic is brought over for this new one, even though it's set in LA, which is not an island. So
Minor details.
yeah, exactly. Maybe it's post the giant earthquake that's going to separate California from the rest of the country.
Well, unless if there's anything else on Gamescom, we can move on. I mean, there's a lot of games announced, but yeah, not much maybe of note for us or the Switch.
I only have a couple of things. I think they showed off more footage of Homeworld 3. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Homeworld.
Yeah, Jeff Keighley was like, "Who remembers Homeworld?" And like one guy in the audience was like, "Woo,
that's me, baby!" Yeah, it's a space RTS. It's super fun.
Yeah,
I remember Homeworld because my freshman college roommate, who failed out of college, I think because of Homeworld, played it constantly in our dorm room. And that Yes song, and I love the band Yes, is just forever etched in my head because they did the soundtrack song. The Home is Our World.
Yeah. World is where the home is, right?
Yeah.
What was the other one, Matt?
Hideo Kojima announced that he has a podcast.
Oh yeah,
I think that's interesting. Seems like we're getting a lot of content creators from developers or personalities themselves. So I think that's fascinating. I love Kojima so much and what he creates. And so I wonder what we'll see or what we'll hear from his podcast, especially with upcoming games.
You think Sakurai is going to guest on Kojima's podcast?
That'd be amazing. And let's just get Richie. Let's just get all of our favorite people together.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, we've talked about how Sony has raised prices for some of their consumer products. They have now raised the price for the PS5 in just about every region that isn't the US. So that's Europe, Japan, Australia, Mexico, and Canada, like everywhere that except for the US. So I think very quickly after that announcement, both Microsoft and Nintendo said they're not raising their prices. They used that moment to be like,
yeah, that's a softball.
It's like an easy moment to be like, I'm not doing something. So yeah, I guess it's going up. What, like roughly 50 euros, 100? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's about 50 currency units in each of these countries, right? Yeah, it's not good optics. I mean, I don't think this has ever happened before in games. It's usually by this point you get a price drop, not a price increase.
The Facebook Meta is also.
Yeah, I guess that's right? The other one, right? Yeah,
but they're both happening now. Yeah,
right. And in the US too. I mean, I feel like we have seen a soft price increase because you can't find the base consoles anywhere. But what is in stock consistently is the $550 Horizon bundle, right? And it's actually in stock. I think you could go find it right now, right? So it's like, so they've kind of done it here anyway. They've just kind of hidden it with a bundled in game for $50. So, it's dire times if you don't have money or a PS5 and you live in Asia or Europe, but kind of sucks.
We've talked about how Embracer Group, we did a big episode about Embracer Group. They are purchasing the Western Square Enix studios, and that was finalized since we've last talked about it. So they now have acquired Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, and Square Enix Montreal, which is sure will change names, right? Maybe not. They'll forever be Square Enix Montreal. I don't know. But that happened. And sort of similarly, but not exactly similar because it didn't happen, there's a bunch of rumors about Amazon buying EA that kind of popped up and then were shut down by another news agency. Like USA Today said it was going to happen. And then it was weird. I think that both of these things happened within the same day. It was just kind of a weird acquisition report.
It felt like within a few hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we got to have that little weird roller coaster ride. What do you think if EA got bought by Amazon? That sounds pretty awful. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't really care. They're both awful. They can have each
Yeah,
other.
They can have each other.
I mean, I think we talked about this back in May. Is that EA was looking to sell, like back
So-
in springtime.
So maybe
The microtransaction well is run dry for them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe those are just negotiations with Amazon.
I do think if Amazon does buy EA, we see EA Play taken off of Game Pass and added to Amazon Luna instead.
I could see that.
yeah. Well, anything else on that? No.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. All right, we're moving on back to Nintendo. So we've talked about this, I think, on the podcast that Retro Studios, one of the Western Nintendo studios, had worked on a Legend of Zelda project that was going to star Sheik and focus on Sheik. And I guess there were some documents that leaked as part of the Giga leak that people have finally pulled out, which is funny that it's been a couple years now and this is still. That's where this has come up from, right? I honestly haven't like dug into this too much.
Yeah,
I just know that people are
and-
talking about it now.
Did you know Gaming did a lot of research on it and spoke to former Retro employees that kind of spilled the beans on a lot of what the project was about. And they did a whole kind of half-hour expose into it on their YouTube channel.
Cool. So I guess you can check that out for the in-depth, but is there any highlights you can share or what's like the big...
Matt, you watched this, right?
I would say there are two quick bits here. There in some of the footage in leaked concept art, it was you play as Sheik, aka Zelda from the Ocarina of Time, in kind of a very, from what Did You Know Gaming reports, a very simplified game. So this was around, early 2010s, give or take, and it tells the story of the origin of the Master Sword, which later we get the origin of the Master Sword and Skyward Sword. So it talks about that in this video, as well as some other bits that we get as some rumblings. Retro, lots of people quit over time because they were not satisfied with the direction of this Zelda game at Retro, or Project X is usually what they refer to. That's two bits. And then the third bit is that on top of the Sheik game, Retro might have been working on a Zelda tactical RPG game. I think Final Fantasy Tactics or Fire Emblem.
Mm.
And it focused on three main heroes, Zora, Gorons, and there's a third one I can't think of.
Mm.
And then in this particular tactical RPG in the Zelda universe, Link is an old man who runs a store.
Runs a store.
I've always thought of him like that. Anyway,
Yeah. As a retail guy, I respect.
yeah, like a Costco employee.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this just goes to show, man. I mean, like, everybody's always like, man, Retro only puts out like one game every, 8 years or something, which is kind of not a lie. But I just think that they have constantly swung really hard at projects and they put a lot of work into them and they just kind of consistently get canceled, right? I don't know that that's necessarily their fault. I know, like, in this video, there was a bit talking about how Shigeru Miyamoto was like, yeah, it'd be cool if an Austin, Texas-based studio worked on Legend of Zelda, but I feel like I'd have to be there, which means I would have to move to Texas. It's like, oh man, yeah, no, you probably wouldn't like it here. Nobody speaks Japanese, but yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, I feel like this is not the end. I feel like there are so many more Retro projects that had been canceled, like over the past 5 to 10 years. And I eat up these exposés. And in the video too, it was like a guy who was being filmed with like his face blacked out or whatever, and his like voice was modulated and stuff like that.
I know.
He was like really
Yeah.
he was scared of the Nintendo.
I
ninjas.
was a CIA agent.
Because they were showing stock footage too of like it's like the silliness of like the how were you with like this black shadow figure?
Yeah. This COINTELPRO guy.
Before we move on, another thing they talked about is on Project X is there were a couple of rumors that were part of it. You play as Sheik, and another rumor that was either part of this Giga Leak, and I might be mixing them up, is you might play as the last male in the Sheikah clan. I thought that was fascinating that they were exploring some of the history of the Sheikah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, it would have been cool, man. All those like ArtStation posts of like the guy who posted them took them all down of the concept art. All looked really, really cool. I think it would have been a great game, but also it doesn't mean that idea is dead, and probably whatever they make now would be better than it would have been as a native Wii game, right? So hopefully a project like that comes back.
Well, speaking of something coming back live, I think I said it right. News came out that they sold over 500,000 units, 500,000 units of that sort of remake of that older game, which they're happy with, right?
Yeah, I think they did like Team Asano did a stream or something where they talked about it. They were all celebrating.
That's a big number for sort of a niche, I guess, game on a locked on one system. So that's pretty cool.
There's also that report of like all the million sellers on the Switch. I don't know if you guys saw that list.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, there's over like 50 games now that have sold over 1 million copies on the Switch. And
Damn.
And it was they put out like kind of a bit of a financial thing as well. And that was
Gotcha.
interesting to see that list.
Was that also in Famitsu, or was that somewhere else?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure where that was
Gotcha.
sourced from, but yeah, I mean, for a game like Live Alive, selling 500,000 copies like that certainly turned a profit for them. So
yeah, it's totally anecdotal, but my brother-in-law, who I think buys more games than he plays because he always wants to, and then doesn't have a lot of time for it, bought that one, and so it just kind of shows that maybe it's kind of had a good reach.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We got news, some Nintendo mobile news now. Mario Kart Tour, the mobile Mario Kart game, has had sort of gacha elements, these sort of loot box like things where you get a chance to win a character or a cart or what have you. And apparently they are going to be removing that and then going to have like a proper store where you can actually purchase the ones you want instead of randomly getting duplicates or something. I don't know if you could get duplicates in that game.
You could. Oh, you
could.
could. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a good step. I mean, I think that hopefully they are rewarded for that choice, or feel rewarded for that choice, so that it feels like a good thing all around. But at least from my standpoint, that sounds great. I don't plan on buying anything.
Yeah, it's probably going to kill the game. I think mobile games, for better or for worse, thrive on gacha mechanics, right? Like, I don't know if they're removing the stuff from like Fire Emblem Heroes or anything, but
yeah,
just goes to show that the pressure that like these European countries are putting on about anti-gambling laws in mobile games and loot box stuff, Nintendo's feeling the pressure of that enough to take it out globally, right? So yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. But
yeah,
I know Mario Kart Tour has been data mined to have like 2 years worth of content coming at least. So I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, we'll see what happens to their financial numbers after this.
Yeah. And then we reported on this, I think, a while back, but Dragalia Lost, one of Nintendo's mobile games and like an RPG game, they said it was going to be shutting down, and now we have a date. It's going to happen in November. So if you're into that, I guess. And then it sounds like we might know the name for the Mario movie that has been untitled until this point, though I guess it's still sort of a rumor or what have you, because it was like posted on some Illumination website, and it's going to shock you. This is where we do the clickbait headline, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you got to do clickbait headlines about 40 minutes into an episode. That's
yeah, that's how we get you. We're going to get you to listen to this segment by it'll shock and awe you. It's Super Mario Bros. Is this what everyone expected?
I think we need to think about the implication of that title, what that could mean for the universe and for the lore. I have no follow up to that.
That's the same
they're
name
just
as the
not
old
regular brothers.
They're super.
They're super. Yeah.
There we
Yeah, I
go.
don't
We define the lore. It's pretty simple.
There you go. And then coming up in what is it, a couple weeks is Tokyo Game Show. And there's been some announcements, like I think Bandai and some other people have said about some of the things they're going to talk about. And then I guess Konami has put up a website about what they're going to talk about at the Tokyo Game Show, right? And it sounds like there's going to be Konami. Is Konami back, David? With this, or we don't know?
I mean, we'll fucking see, man.
See.
Yeah, I hope so. They're teasing the return of a franchise that is beloved around the world, is I think paraphrasing what they said they will be revealing. So, I think some footage has leaked from a purported Silent Hill 2 remake. So you have to think it's probably that. But there's also been rumblings of, we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, about a Metal Gear Solid trilogy remaster for modern platforms. We've been talking about that for a bit. So I think either at a Nintendo Direct or Tokyo Game Show, we'll be seeing the return of some of these franchises. And I think, Konami, for the most part, has been doing a great job re-releasing old games. The Castlevania collections, the Contra collections have all been really good. I think that if they could stick the landing with like a Metal Gear Solid collection, and, maybe a couple Silent Hill projects like have been rumored, might be back in gamers' good graces again. But yeah, time will surely tell, because they've been quiet recently.
All right, and then we're going to really talk about this in our main topic, but just to mention it here in the news section and to bring us into our main topic, there's been a lot of rumors about a Nintendo Direct happening in September. We usually get one, at least in the Switch era, so it's not like a wild guess. But in particular, I guess Jeff Grubb, the gaming journalist and podcaster, has been talking about how there's going to be one. And in particular, he said next week, right? Like the week of the 12th. Yeah.
That's the rumor. Yeah. Jeff Grubb likes to talk. And he says a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if we want to talk about it now or in the,
we can hold until the main topic. But yeah,
we'll talk about what Jeff said and also our own thoughts about.
Can we just call this episode "What Jeff Said"?
Sure. But yeah, we'll talk about whether or not we think there'll be a Direct in September, and what these rumors are, and what we want to see, and if we even think there should be a Direct, and maybe sort of the state of Directs, like David said, after we take this break. All right, this week we are talking about the rumors of a September Direct happening later this month, and we're going to talk about kind of what might be in it, if it happens, why it maybe should or shouldn't happen. I don't know. I have some thoughts on that myself, but maybe we can start with these rumors that we kind of closed with. Particularly the week of the 12th has been mentioned. You said early on in the show, maybe the next week. Is that just sort of a thought, or has there been rumors for that week as well, David? Do you know that
like the week following the 12th?
Yeah, the 19th.
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
you have to look a bit at the history of Nintendo Directs, and I know that is spotty because Nintendo always does their own thing. But the one thing they've always been consistent with is putting out a Direct before Tokyo Game Show in September, right? Pretty much every year since the Switch has been out, and even before then, they've done Directs in September, be it that first or second week, right? So I think especially with the last, the E3 Direct not being a general and that being a partner showcase, it definitely would be very, very surprising if there is not a Nintendo Direct before Tokyo Game Show. A lot of people are saying that it would be the 13th or the 14th, depending on time zone, just because of when Tokyo Game Show actually starts, which is like, I guess, around the 15th or the 16th. So it would kind of make sense, I think, for them to get Splatoon 3 out at the end of this week and then have it,
After.
early in, Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week. But I mean, it's again, there's really no telling, especially in these strange times. But that's kind of what the rumor mill is saying. And And it hasn't just been Jeff Grubb flapping his gums about this either. Sorry, I like Jeff Grubb. I don't know why I constantly bringing him down, but
Flapping his gums.
yeah, flapping his little mouth. No, but I mean, we've also been hearing from Direct Feed Games. Nate from Nate the Hate has been talking about how this is all but confirmed. We've been hearing lots of reports.
From what I can tell, we've had a September Direct in some form. Sometimes it's partner showcase, sometimes it's Nintendo 3DS showcase, sometimes it's game specific, but we've had some Direct in some kind, in some form since 2015.
Yeah. So,
well,
there you go.
I think maybe one of the reasons I kind of feel like I just feel like we already know a lot about this year, about Nintendo's sort of big games. And I think, I don't think that means that they won't do a Direct, but I think from like my personal perspective, I think that they could get away with not doing one, if that makes sense. I know David's upset by this idea. But I remember whenever we were talking about the E3 one, I kind of felt like maybe they won't do one since there's no E3, and they kind of half did one with the partner showcase. And I still kind of feel like they could get away with something like that in September, because Pokemon is a big game that we all know about, and I feel like that's their big bank. That's going to be one of the best-selling games on the Switch. Unfortunately, whatever you want to call it. I think first open world Pokemon.
2 strikes, Patrick.
And then I just we know about Bayonetta, we know about Mario Rabbids, we know like those are big October games. Like,
but what do we know? So they wouldn't spend a lot of time on Pokemon in a Direct anyway.
Right.
Right.
They're not gonna.
So what do we know? Well, I want to hear from Ivy as well what you think. But I think before that, like, what do we know about what big Nintendo games are coming out in November and December? I don't think we know much of anything other than Pokemon, right?
Yeah,
just kind of through October, right?
Right. We don't have. I mean, we know through October, and then there's the Pokemon game. I just kind of. Yeah, and anybody else? I'm talking a lot, so I'll shut up.
Advance Wars, maybe if this September Direct happens, we finally get a date for Advance Wars.
Potentially, yeah. Ivy, what do you think about this? Do you think we'll see a Direct, or do you think we even need one?
I want there to be a Direct, so I hope we see one. I'm not really sure if we need one, just because, I mean, we were all hoping for one in June. And they managed to get away with the partner showcase and then with the Pokemon Presents and just kind of keep it at that. But I would love to see what Nintendo games are coming in November, December, as well as early next year. I mean, we're all really hoping for Breath of the Wild 2. And if we could even just get some sort of tidbit of yes, it's really coming. It's going to be in the spring. That would just be nice.
A title, maybe?
Yeah.
And maybe a more specific time frame. Even if it's not the date, maybe a month.
Yeah.
Well, and also it's been, in October, it will have been a year since the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack happened. Just with that in mind, it would be a great time for Nintendo to be and this is what we're continuing to do. It's been out a year. It's been very successful, however they want to play it.
Right.
But it would be nice to see what their next move on that front is.
Totally.
Yeah. Especially with this higher price tier, subscriptions are about to lapse for that. Right. And so they need a good reason other than just more Mario Kart 8 courses, which we know are coming for an additional year on what the carrot that you can dangle in front of people to keep that subscription going, right? So yeah, I think that's a good call for sure.
I think that kind of what I'm getting at is that they've been successful at kind of just dropping news outside of the Direct format, and that if there is a big game, for let's say November or December that we're waiting on, they could just do that as its own thing, and then give us a Direct in February like they like to do for next year. But I do, in talking about this, I think
but what if in February we're like, oh, we know what's coming in February. Who needs it?
I think it's possible. I think that, this is sort of its own discussion, but I do think they've been doing a lot more of that, and it has allowed them to have fewer directs this year. If we get this one, and you don't count or at least first party directs that are general and not game focused. But I do think the NSO, we should talk about that. I think that's big. I think that would be a big component potentially of a direct, right? Like some additional DLC that's free for the expansion pack, or additional consoles for either. Because I think, we've talked about this. Maybe last time we talked about our direct speculation is they show off something for both, right? Like Game Boy for base and Game Boy Advanced for expansion pack, or
yeah. We were talking about Game Boy and Game Boy Color before N64 and Genesis were announced and released, right? And, we know Nintendo likes to sit on games and sit on stuff. And this would just make sense in spreading it out. I think it makes sense that they opened the expansion pack with N64. I think that's a bit more flashy than Game Boy Advance for a reason to subscribe to that higher tier, right? So it makes sense that, okay, yeah, maybe they had Game Boy Advance emulation done for a while, but it's better to grab people with, the more multiplayer centric, couch multiplayer system with the N64, kind of the birth of 3D graphics on Nintendo consoles, and then get people with Game Boy Advance, which I think is a better fit anyway. Game Boy Advance games than N64 games on the service. I would be way more excited for that, even though I play a lot of Game Boy Advance games on my Steam Deck anyway. But I would definitely love to play them on my Switch and be able to play them with people. It'll be fucking Pokemon games with online trading and online multiplayer would be huge. I mean, I think people would just turn their Switches into Pokemon machines at that point. That'd be massive.
What about any DLC as part of expansion pack? I think it's probably too early for them to talk about Splatoon 3's DLC.
I agree.
So I don't think, even if that is going to come to expansion pack, which, fingers crossed, I don't think they would want to talk about that yet, but maybe there'd be something else. And I think Matt, was it your idea that Breath of the Wild DLC could be something they add?
Oh, I wasn't thinking.
You'll take credit for that?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was David then. I feel like somebody mentioned that in one of our past episodes. And if they do talk about the sequel or other Zelda things, that could be something.
Oh, you're saying like a DLC that's equivalent of the course booster pass.
Well, I guess I'm saying if they give us the one for the original as part of expansion pack.
I could see
kind of like how they did with Splatoon 2 Octo expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, they were like, yeah, this is coming out for the old one to give you a reason to buy the game instead of just waiting for Splatoon 3, right? I think it'd be similar. I mean, that's one of the big things that Flappy Mouth Grub was talking about, was that there's going to be a big
there's flapping in the wind over there.
Yeah. A big like Zelda focus at this direct, right? I think that we all kind of thought that was going to happen on the 35th anniversary year, right? Which I guess was last year, 2021. A lot of stuff got pushed back. I think they probably wanted to get Breath of the Wild 2 out by probably latest March 2021, and now here we are waiting even longer. So I think that they probably do want to bundle a bunch of Zelda stuff together in some announcements. So, I think saying Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD coming out, drop the title for Breath of the Wild 2, expansion pass, Breath of the Wild 1 DLC. I think that would all make for a pretty good announcement, right? And I think I've been saying this forever, but I think it's also fucking high time we get another freebie. And I think dropping Four Swords onto NSO, this is the time, right? Like if you're doing a bunch of Zelda stuff, they try to do at least one Zelda release a year. We haven't gotten anything from them this year. So I think, yeah, that would be great to get just kind of a big blowout of Zelda stuff at this direct. It could take up a good chunk of time.
Well, and also it could get everyone even more hyped for the prospect of Breath of the Wild 2 coming. I am semi new to the Zelda franchise. I played Breath of the Wild. I started it about a year ago and put about 300 or so hours in and absolutely adored it.
Yeah.
To say the least. And like, it's made me want to play other Zelda games. Like I've played A Link to the Past when the remake of Link's Awakening went on sale a few months ago. I bought that, and that's on my to play list. So I think by like releasing, more Zelda stuff, whether it's through the NSO expansion pack or if it's like kind of similar to what they did with Mario 3D All-Stars, I think that would be a great way to kind of, kick off all of the hype for Breath of the Wild 2.
Right. And releasing that stuff this year would leave them open to just have Breath of the Wild 2 be the focus for next year, right? Like that's the Zelda game we get next year, which is all we need, right? I don't think you need more than that as far as Zelda's concerned for a year, right? That'll take up the whole cultural conversation.
Oh yeah.
The like Wii U remakes of the GameCube Zelda games. How do you think we see that? Yeah, like pricing. Like, do you guys think we'll see that in a pack, or do you think they do those individually?
My intuition would be that it'd be in a pack. That being said, that might just be mostly wishful thinking, and that's how I would like to see them, as opposed to having to buy 2 individual games.
Right. I mean, I think I don't know. Maybe it's just fresh in my mind because like Last of Us Part 1 remake just came out for like $70, and it's like that had a whole bunch of controversy. It's like how much can Nintendo get away with for Wii U ports of GameCube games? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that's, I don't know. Do they dare do these $60 a pop? Or
people were upset at Skyward Sword, but they did it with that, and I wonder if it was on that million selling list of your we mentioned.
I think it's got to be, yeah.
Yeah. So even though the people are vocally loud and upset, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they were both separate, but I don't know.
Well, and I'll be honest too, as I mentioned, I'm relatively new to the Zelda franchise, and after having played Breath of the Wild, like my thought was, okay, I want to go back and play all of the old Zeldas. And while Skyward Sword is on my wish list, I haven't actually bought it yet, just knowing that I already have access to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And I need to play those before I play Skyward Sword. Or I don't need to, but like I prefer to, mostly because I don't have to pay for those.
Yeah. They destroy your Switch if you play one before the other, actually. They'll ban you.
The world implodes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely I think if they do release them as a pack, it'll be sort of like what they did with like Bayonetta 1 and 2, right? Where it was like they released Bayonetta 2 and it comes bundled with Bayonetta 1 for like an extra $10 or something. And I think it's like, I think both of these are like maybe 40 each, and you get them both for 60 or 70 maybe, like as a pack, right? But either way, I think they're going to show up as 2 different icons on your Switch. I think there'll be different SKUs, maybe sort of like what they do with like the Pokemon versions, where there's like, they'll bundle them together for the exact same price or slightly cheaper, but I can't see it going any different than that. But
well, there's been some other rumors maybe we can talk about then as well. And I think even back in June when there were rumors of the E3 lists direct, there was talk about Metroid Prime remake coming as a holiday game this year and being like November-ish, as I recall. I might be filling in incorrect details, but was that mentioned again in sort of these newer waves of rumors?
Yeah, I mean, on the Last of the Nintendogs podcast with Minotti and Grubb, they talked about that for sure. I mean, that's one of the projects that has been talked about forever, and that Nintendo is apparently just sitting on, right? And I think that makes sense because they don't know when Metroid Prime 4 is going to be done. I don't think anybody at Nintendo is rushing retro right now, or if anything, they're probably just like, let's just get this on a Switch successor, since it's going to take a long time anyway, and it's going to be a graphical powerhouse probably. So I don't know. We'll see. If I'm not convinced that this is the right time for that. I mean, I think it would be great, but I think that I think that it has to drop with news of Metroid Prime 4. So it just kind of depends on when they're ready to show that, I think, when we do see this remake. But I definitely think it exists. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
How long have we been talking about the Metroid Prime trilogy? It feels like at least 2.5 years, 2 to 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, since they announced 4, which was the end of 2017, right?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Jesus,
I could be wrong.
Time sure flies.
Yeah. So, if not this holiday season, then maybe spring next year.
But do you think they would take away? I mean, if we're all speculating that Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be in spring next year, do you think they would release those so close together?
Yeah, probably not. I could see potentially like filling a like January slot, like where we saw like Arceus this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Nintendo's actually done pretty well with January. You know, I think like the new Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe for Switch edition with Luigi included came out in January, and that was a huge seller for them. I think that like, and it's a lot of the other big companies don't put stuff out in January, right? But Nintendo's kind of always grabbed that spot and done pretty well with it. So I could see something like that. That's also, I think, where we could see them shoveling Advance Wars as well, like into January of next year potentially. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of GameCube rumbling right now everywhere, right? I think we've also been seeing some pretty cheeky like F-Zero GX rumors going around from Nate the Hate, like we were talking about before. He's been talking about it. If we're getting Metroid Prime, these Zelda remasters, and F-Zero GX, is this NSO? Is this are these just, is there like a new line of just remastered each, you know? I kind of feel like you just put these out individually on the eShop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because I don't think they want to do a GameCube app, right? These games, they could probably sell for more. And so it seems, but then are they going to do physical copies? Like you said, I don't, that seems weird.
Well, just functionally too. It's like if you have the NSO app for GameCube, that app itself with all the games in it is going to be like, 20 gigs or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it kind of just doesn't, it makes sense with N64 and SNES and stuff like that because they're little minuscule file sizes, right? But if you've got like disc-based games that are all HD upscaled and, you'd probably have to add in like proper online functionality and stuff. So I just can't see this being an app like we have with these other consoles. I feel like it's not like retro enough. I feel like you got to kind of put these out piecemeal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless we get some other GameCube representation, I'm thinking like maybe we finally see Super Mario Sunshine escape its 3D All-Stars jail. And it gets its like a separate SKU in the eShop because that game is unavailable outside of that collection, and the collection's not on the eShop anymore, from my understanding. And so, unless we see other other Nintendo mainline games from the GameCube, including like a Zelda, Twilight Princess, then we might not see GameCube at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope so. I think that these deserve proper remasters, right? I think like at this point it would just behoove them to have a team on it. Maybe put Nerd on it, right? Like the European Nintendo research and development studio. I think having them kind of going through and doing these remakes themselves. I mean, that they did it for, I think they're the ones that put together Mario All-Stars, right? And so I think, having them kind of do like kind of the bare minimum of work on it, right? But just adding in net play or whatever, adding in proper button prompts and all that kind of stuff. And you could do that with Lua scripts or whatever, however they did it for the remasters, kind of like its own form of emulation. But you could put those out piecemeal on the Switch, release them for $30-$40 a pop. And I think these would sell really well. And, put some life back into some of these IPs that we haven't seen in a long time from Nintendo.
Well, and I think having it at that $30-$40 price line would be really attractive to most people because it would be hard to legitimize paying $60 for a GameCube game. But like 30
Right.
or 40, yeah, I could spring for that.
Yeah. Especially if it's like a line, right? Like a Nintendo Selects or something. They have like a name for the series of games that they're putting out.
Yeah.
I think that would do really well. Yeah.
Well, you have this note in here, David, which I hadn't seen this, but there's also been some rumors about a 2D Mario, a new 2D Mario, is it?
Yeah. This is from Zippo, which is hit or miss. Zippo is a leaker that sometimes gets stuff right and sometimes doesn't. I think it was more often right than not. So take it with a grain of salt, but there's a lot of rumblings about a new 2D Mario game that's been in development for a while and is actually pretty far along with a 2023 or further release date that would be dropping the new Super Mario moniker and would have like a different art style and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that'd be great. So something like that would be awesome.
Synergistically, it would kind of make sense just given the fact that the movie is coming out.
That would also tie in really well. Yeah, I would love to be a new 2D Mario with that.
They did it with Sonic Origins, even though the timing didn't really work out like that. But I think that helped that collection, right? Even though like some people thought it was overpriced. That was a great introduction to kids who are now Sonic fans because of the movies. It's not like Mario is aching for a new fan base, but it's like, but I think that would make a lot of sense. It's been a long time since we've seen a 2D game that isn't a maker game, right?
Yeah.
So that would be great.
Yeah, and then there's still those rumors of the Donkey Kong game, which could be something we'd see if that's actually true, right?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot Nintendo's sitting on. I think the Donkey Kong game is probably done, right, or close to being finished by the Odyssey team, right? I think the new Fire Emblem is completed. I think it's done. I think it's in the bag. They're just waiting to release it, right? They want to spread it out a little bit from Warriors. We've got Advance Wars, that's done, in the bag. Metroid is done, in the bag, right? You've got Metroid Prime Remake, so it's like, I think that we're going to get a couple of these projects that we've been hearing about in the background November, December, right? I think like we need something to look forward to for the end of this year that is not Pokemon, right? And I think
we need them. Specifically us.
Yeah. We are entitled gamers. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think that for sure. Another rumor we had in here is that's been rumored by multiple people is It Takes Two dropping on Switch by the end of this year.
Makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. That would just make a lot of sense.
I'm surprised. I mean, there must have been some deal with Microsoft, right? Because I think it, or I guess it wasn't. I guess it was on PlayStation as well, but it was about a year ago that it came out. It's been on Game Pass for a while now through EA Play, and so I think that it just makes too much sense. The graphics could totally be done on the Switch, I think, and it just makes sense with like 2 Joy-Con gameplay, right?
I think, I'm jumping kind of backwards, but talking about all this stuff that they're sitting on and talking about what we know about and that sort of stuff reminds me of, not that I think Nintendo won't do a direct, but I think the reason that we probably didn't see one in June and the reason I could see them doing a sparse one here too is just that I think they got a little bit ahead of themselves. They like, you know what I mean? They like to have the direct to show off stuff that's the next several months and kind of do it 3 times a year or whatever. And I think that we just already knew so much about the fall that they skipped the summer, right? And I think if they could, I don't know, it's not like they shoot themselves in the foot. People are excited to buy their games or whatever, and we're choosing to watch their ads. But like, I think maybe they're trying to rein back in a little bit and not show us too many of these things. But yeah, I think after talking about this, I can see a lot of stuff filling out late this year, early next year.
Does anyone know what Nintendo's, I think, Matthew, you said that they've been doing directs since 2015. What started the directs in the first place? Like, what was their motivation for that? Because maybe that's kind of a tie-in or a clue as to whether or not they're going to continue with them or go in a different direction.
Yeah, so I think it was episode 50. I am totally going off of memory here.
No, I think you're right.
Where we did a discussion of this topic, and not that we can't talk about it a little bit right now, but if anybody wants to go hear us talk about it, because around that time, I think whenever we did that episode, there was also some talk in the like people asking, are they going to keep doing directs, and then saying we're going to do what makes sense for us, which is an understandable answer. But I think that now they've been doing directs for a little over a decade.
I'm saying the first one is in 2011.
Yeah, it was an Iwata thing, right? It was like, this was like Iwata's Nintendo, you know, it was basically being like, hey, we just want to do, this is when he was like directly. Remember when he would do that? Yeah. And it was like, it was very much like an effort to minimize some of that. I just feel like Iwata has always been about communication, right? And like always wanted to be communicative with the fan base and not be just like some sort of like corporate dude, right? You know? And so I think they started with him just wanting to like cut back on some of that like Nintendo mystery, right? And now it's become just the pillar of Nintendo announcements and how they do stuff, right? Before they would just come like higgledy-piggledy and whenever, right? It was kind of just whenever they felt like doing something. And now it's become this like standardized thing that everybody else in the industry has started to copy as well.
And you think about the timing of like popularity of YouTube and stuff like that. Like, you know, the internet really, I feel like, got everybody on it around the turn of the century, right? Like, I mean, the internet's obviously existed before that, but around, I feel like, the late 90s, early 2000s is when it kind of exploded in terms of everybody's on it and everybody has an email and everybody yada yada. And then YouTube came along a few years later but really kind of got big close to that time. I don't know. I'm totally rambling. I could be wrong about exact dates, but I think that's partly where it ties.
Tell me more about this email.
Now people don't even use it. Now we just use our TikToks like Donnie. Yeah. But I think that again is sort of the answer to that question. But I think that's where like maybe it is not outlived its usefulness, because obviously it's still very popular, and they can then break it up into small things, and they can take not put everything in it and save some things.
Agreed.
But
yeah. I mean, I just think we've absolutely got one of these coming, man. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, because next month in October, you've got I think it's Bayonetta 3, Persona 5, and Mario Rabbids coming out within a week of each other, right? Mm-hmm. And we know a lot about October, and then we know Pokemon's in November, but again, Pokemon Company does its own thing, right? And so we've got at least 2 months that we need covered by this thing. And then also, I think we're going to be getting drops about what's going to be happening in January and February, right? We get a drop of the title and another trailer for Breath of the Wild. And then in that February direct, you get this is what Breath of the Wild 2 is, right? You know, it's like the big hype month leading up to the game coming out in like, you know, March or something like that, right? And then, so it just makes too much sense to me that this happens now. You know, I just think there's, you know, I understand when we talk about like, the NSO thing. It's just, and the fact that they didn't do one in June, right? I think it's just all of the pieces are lining up, you know, all the rumblings and everything like that. It just would make too much sense. I would be very disappointed and honestly, like, really kind of skeptical, like worried about what's going on at Nintendo. Like I would actually start to be afraid that like something is bad that, you know, at Nintendo. So I just think it makes too much sense. And I'd be very fucking surprised.
I agree. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page for Nintendo Directs. And we've had Nintendo Directs in September, much earlier than I thought, going back to 2012. With a rare skip of 2015. Mm-hmm. But other than that, they've been consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. I think,
and if going back to like 2020 is when we were eating good, which maybe made us weak people wanting more grub from Nintendo. Like in 2020, we had the 35th anniversary we had Partner Showcase, and then we had a Monster Hunter. And so I think I agree with you, David. This could be leading up to something big. We get more Zelda stuff, but I think we're due for large things like a new Mario entry.
Arms 2.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Also in research sorry to keep on going.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, to research into going on what's like comparing this year to previous years. So we have pretty consistent sequels coming out. So we have like looking at 2017 to 2020. We have like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out in 2017, and now we have 3. We have Sonic Force came out, and now we have Sonic Frontiers, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Violet and Scarlet, Mario Kart 8, Splatoon, Fire Emblem.
What the fuck else? What the fuck else came out in 2017, gang? Mario Odyssey. Where the fuck is Mario Odyssey 2?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
that's like the one. That's like the one game from that launch year that isn't getting a sequel this year.
And Kirby Star Allies, and then we got Forgotten Worlds.
Exactly.
I think
and maybe the Mario Odyssey sequel is their big, surprise that they are keeping so well under wraps, and maybe that's what goes along with the movie.
Yeah.
That would be great too.
Yeah, that would be so good. Yeah.
It's
been a while, man. Yeah.
I'm totally speculating that we'll probably get something about a Mario, and then maybe something about ARMS. There we are.
Yeah. I mean, the question with ARMS, and we can wrap this up here, but I think the question about ARMS, because ARMS is made by the Mario Kart 8 team, right? And so the question is, who is on Booster Course Pass duty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it their A team? You have to think not. If they're mostly porting tour levels, that's probably like a skeleton crew, right? So either they're working on a Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart Infinite or whatever the fuck they're going to call the Smash Kart or whatever, or they're working on ARMS 2. I think it's either or, right? And so it would not surprise me to see something in the ARMS universe here, or maybe even a new IP, right? I mean, ARMS sold really well, actually, because it was, it was like a 2 or 3 million seller. And that was one of the launch games, right? And it was motion control heavy, and it people wanted to punch things at that time. And so, people want to punch things now for different reasons. But I think, it would be interesting to see if they are using the popularity of that as a metric for more ARMS games or not. But either way, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think this is 2017 part due, right? Like, we're moving into it this year with all these sequels. So I'd love to see some stuff like that.
All right. Well, I think we should close out the discussion unless somebody wants to throw anything else in real quickly. And so, that'll do it for our talk about this September Direct and whether or not it's happening and what's going to be in it. And we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. All right. I have mostly been playing Stray. And I'm with you, David. I looked at my time last night because I haven't beaten the game yet, and I'm at like 6 hours and something. I don't even remember how close to 7 I am, but I presume I'm getting close to the end, but I really don't know. So
where are you in the game?
I am. I don't know if this is how spoilerly this is. Midtown.
Okay.
And what I presume is towards the very end of the Midtown area.
Right. Yeah. I think you're probably about 2/3 or 3/4 through. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it feels like, but it doesn't feel like I'm right near the end. So, yeah.
You playing that on deck?
I am. Yeah. It'll heats up the deck, but,
yeah. Have you been doing
I need to go in and
games
mess with
like
the
that,
settings. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you doing like 40 frames per second? Or are you doing 60? Like, what's the?
I am doing whatever it defaults to, but I remember when I looked up the game, I read about a bunch of ideal settings, and I kind of forgot. So I should probably go in there and tweak some of that. So
I'd recommend
it runs hot
on games like that, just to get a little bit more battery life out of it and to get more consistent performance. On games like that, set your refresh rate to 40 frames per second, and then the game will run at 40, and then it's like not doing any interpolating or frame skipping or anything like that.
Stutters and such, yeah.
Yeah, 40 frames per second is a great middle ground for like AAA. It's not really AAA, but you know what I'm saying, more
high
intense
graphic, yeah.
Yeah, newer games. It's great for that. And then it looks really good and smooth on the Steam Deck.
It's a good reminder.
Do that later
I meant to do that when I started playing it, but I kind of forgot, and I've just been in the groove of it. I haven't had a huge problem with the battery because I haven't had long play sessions, but I have noticed it running really hot. And you know, something I'm used to doing for our audio listeners is with the Switch is holding it like in the middle of the Switch, and you can't do that with your Steam Deck if you've been playing.
Fan is blowing right on
and it's hot, it's like so yeah,
very cool. I'll go next. I've been playing some fun games. I was just playing 3D Pinball Space Cadet on my Steam Deck, so that Windows classic you can play on your Steam Deck. That's kind of fun. And then other kind of random stuff. I've been kind of going through my backlog a bit on the Steam Deck in particular. You know, obviously we did the Splatoon, the Splatfest demo, and that was a blast. But I haven't been playing too much on my Switch recently. I've been playing a lot on the deck. Mission in Snowdrift Land, basically just like going through like all these old Kickstarter projects that I backed that I never claimed the keys for. I'm like adding them to my deck and be like, oh, I should probably play these. So the Steam Deck is great for that, kind of beating the backlog, which I really enjoy. What else have I been playing? I've been getting back into Myst style games and Cyan games. And you know, there was a big sale on Steam for like all the kind of back catalog of Myst games. So I've been playing some of those and just kind of like dipping my toe back in. But one of them in particular that I just completely took over my life this past weekend is a game called Abduction, which was a 2016 like spiritual successor to Myst. This was like Cyan's first like foray back into this style of game in a long time. It was made in Unreal Engine 4. And man, this game, I had so much fun with it. I beat the whole thing yesterday, and it was such a blast. And I really, really recommend this game. It's like got a really cool story. It actually reminds me a lot, Matt, of, I was telling you this, reminds me a lot of Meow Wolf stuff, like particularly Omega Mart, kind of the story, the kind of storyline behind like the setting of Omega Mart and how that kind of all fits into the world, like is very similar to the story of Abduction, where it's kind of like, you know, not trying to spoil anything about Omega Mart, but kind of the whole, like the kind of caveat of the game is that, you know, you're kind of abducted by this like weird seed thing and brought to this world, and you're basically in the middle of this like Arizona town. But that Arizona town itself is inside kind of a giant bubble that's on an alien planet, right? And so you kind of have to discover what's happening, and the whole kind of story is just revealed to you through environmental discovery and, you know, puzzle solving, and it's all kind of like woven into the narrative, and it's super cool. And as you're going through, you're like solving puzzles in a very Myst way, and you're kind of like figuring out how the mechanics of the world. And it was really only like 15 hours into the game, as I'm getting towards the end, that I feel like it finally clicked for me, like the fundamental like caveat of like what's happening in this game. Like, you know, the way that it's like, okay, yeah, I'm here in this like bubble of Earth on this alien planet. And then whenever I go, I swap over to this other alien planet that has its own like, you know, bubble of another alien planet on it, right? And there's all these like orbs within orbs. And it's like all these like mechanics that I had been doing the entire time. I just had these like constant, just mind-blowing like revelations as I'm playing. Like towards the end, they started to all kind of like happen all at once. And it wasn't something where the game was like, I'm explaining this to you now. I'm explaining this to you now. It's just like stuff that clicked, right? And so for me, you know, as somebody who's like a pretty impatient gamer, it's hard for me to stick with games like this a lot. But having that happen like over and over, I felt like I was making like personal discoveries, right? And it was like, yeah, and it was like this really beautiful moment of like, oh my God, I've been doing this the whole time, right? And I'm trying to be vague here because I don't want to give anything away, because that was a pretty cool moment for me when I discovered that stuff. But yeah, I really recommend it. There's a couple puzzles in there that are super head scratchy moments that I was really banging my head for a while, and I used to guide a couple times, but I tried to do most of it without, and that was really rewarding whenever I would figure something out without it. You know, it's not perfect, and it's got performance issues. The reason I haven't played it until now, even though I was a backer on this game on Kickstarter, was my old computer just couldn't handle it. But the Steam Deck handles it like a pro. It was great to play. And if you have VR, this is a great game for VR. So I would recommend that. But yeah, I just wanted to gush on that game for a little bit because it completely took over my headspace for the past week. It's all I could think about. What about you, Matt? What have you been playing recently?
Mostly Xenoblade. I'm playing post game, battling enemies level 90 and above. That's been really fun. Been playing that.
So you beat that story then?
Yes, yeah. I beat the story, beat the main story, and then completing some side quests, and then defeating the kind of the hardest bosses. I don't think I will do all of the side quests. It's so many fucking side quests. And some of the side quests are weird because the characters, if you don't start the side quest when it is given to you, it makes it feel like you're thrusted back to a previous chapter, like time hasn't changed at all.
That kid is still stuck in the tree or whatever.
It's we'll see. But that's been really fun. It's cool seeing JRPGs and how they kind of expand the universe and expand the gameplay once you finish the main story. I've also been playing. Devolver released a trailer for a game that they're publishing, Stick It to the Stickman, which is like a stick person battling roguelike. And it's so fun to play. You can play it on PC. It's a itch.io game. And I've just been playing that over the weekend. It's a name your own price game on itch that Devolver is bringing it to Steam next year in 2023. And that's been fun. Mostly it's commentary on climbing a corporate ladder. It's a stick fighting game, and you climb the whole world is climbing the corporate ladder. And at the end, you get to choose your own adventures of whether you want to crush Jeff Bezos's face.
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. And then it keeps on asking you to say, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And then it will be like, "Do you want to pick him up?" To like forgive him. So there are multiple endings. It's all text only endings, but there are multiple endings, and they're very fun. But the gameplay is very satisfying. So if you ever watch those stick figure battles on YouTube, like Zio.
Oh yeah, those are fun.
It's cool.
Back in the Flash animation days.
Yeah, albino black sheep days. That's good.
I had one more question about Xenoblade, if you don't mind. Now that you've like beaten the story and you're done with it, was it satisfying to you? Was it? I mean, like story wise, like what are your non-spoiler thoughts on like kind of how that game wrapped up? Like, where does it stand for you?
They do a great job of wrapping up the entire trilogy, connecting all of the worlds, the stories, the characters, tying up loose ends, tying up some of the bigger plot issues about how this world came to be. I think they do a really good job. I have no idea what the future means, or what the future will hold for a Xenoblade game and how they explore new ideas.
In your opinion, and as a fan of the series, as a whole, is Xenoblade the third game? Is it something that a potentially new person to the series could just pick up, or would you suggest starting from number one and then working your way through them?
I think that this is a hard question to answer from a story perspective. Because Xenoblade Chronicles 3, while it wraps up the story, you don't really get the points unless you play the other games, or like the purpose of all of these different narrative points. And I think it would be hard to go once you play 3 to play, say, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, just because the quality of life changes in 3 are so overwhelmingly good. So it might be a really hard
basically, if you have both the time and the money to invest in all the games, start
as a person who doesn't have a lot of time, what I would recommend is watch a 2 to 3 hour YouTube video of wrapping up the lore for Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, and then play 3 and you're good.
All right. That's a good answer.
Just play another 300 hours of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
No big deal.
No big deal.
What about you, Ivy? What have you been playing recently?
I've been playing a really good mix of games. In our house, Mario Kart is pretty much a staple. I live with my parents, and my mom adores Mario Kart.
That's great.
She's 72, and like before Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like she had no interest in video games, and now she is addicted. And like, I mean, like she mains Waluigi on the Yoshi bike with leaf tires.
God.
Like, yeah.
That's you dirty. Yeah.
And it's funny too, because like she has her own lexicon of like what things in the game are. Like instead of the question mark blocks, like she calls them ice cubes because to her they look like ice cubes.
I can see that.
And so we have a lot of fun playing that together. I was looking and like I think we've put in well over 1,000 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But beyond Mario Kart, I just in excitement and anticipation for Splatoon 3, I've been playing a lot of Splatoon 2. Because like I would love to just like kind of hit the ground running with Splatoon 3 and like feel like my skills are like, you know, at least semi up to par and like I feel like comfortable with the controls and such. So a lot of Splatoon 3, a little bit of Animal Crossing just because like I'd feel bad if my villagers stopped liking me. I know they're not even real, but like I would feel bad. So I do check in with them, you know, at least every few days. And then the big game that I've probably been spending, you know, beyond those sort of like staple games is a game, a JRPG that Donnie had recommended probably about a year ago when it went on sale on the eShop, and that's Ni no Kuni and the Wrath of the White Witch. It goes on sale a fair amount, and he had said that when he recommended it. So I had it on my watch list for quite a while. And then when I finished Earthbound with the JRPG club, I still like felt this like need to scratch that JRPG itch. And Ni no Kuni just like happened to go on sale for $9.99. And I was like, yeah, this is a good time. And I will say that I am shocked that they will drop it as low as $9.99. I know it's an older game, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm probably about 60 hours in, and like to me, and again, as someone who's relatively new to the JRPG genre, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Earthbound mixed with like Pokemon. And it's just fun. It's very wholesome. It's very sweet. There are a lot of long cutscenes, and if you need something just like low key where you can just like, you know, turn your brain off and just focus on the game and like not have to really think hard doing it, it's a perfect game for that.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten around to that one, but it's so gorgeous. I love the art style of that game.
Yeah, it is really pretty. And it's interesting that you say that, David, because as like when my mom like walked through, she'd be like, oh, that game's really pretty. And like, you know, like to her, like that's what she sees. And like, or she'll say, oh, that game's really cute. And like, it is really pretty and it's really cute. And yeah, it's a good game.
Awesome. I think that does it for this episode then. Thank you so much. Ivy, Sarah, thank you for coming on and talking with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Yay.
And thanks to milkyway.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me online most places as PDYX.
Hey, I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Ivy? Where can people find you online?
I am only on Discord, and I am Ivy.
Perfect. There you go. You can find her on our Discord. And that's a great plug for the Discord. Make sure you join that up. We'll have a link to that in the description of this video. And if you'd like to find our show on social media, we're at a whole bunch of places now. We're at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. I don't know. I need to look up what exactly we're called on TikTok. I don't know how the fucking app works. We also have a website called www.switchheadz.com. That's what it's called. And then, like we said, we got the Discord and the Facebook group Lots of Donkey Kong's teeth memes going on Facebook recently, so it's definitely worth reinstalling Facebook if you've left it, just to join our Facebook group there. And then that's going to do it, folks, for this episode. What a blast. Ivy, once again, it was great having you on. Can't wait until we get that direct next week that is announced immediately after we record. I'm sure that's going to happen. But time will surely tell. But other than that, folks, tune in next week. We are at least going to be talking about a little bit of Splatoon next week. So make sure you tune into next week's episode. That'll be a blast. But other than that, guys, you know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Be the best you can be. Fuck the police. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.